Family court is not a fucking debate club. You're not here to win the fucking argument. You're not there to deliver a TED talk about your ex's personality disorder. And the contrary to popular belief, the judge is not sitting there waiting for your 27-page WhatsApp analysis called Exhibit F, why Sharon is completely fucking mental. Nobody's reading that voluntarily. Family court is boring, painfully boring. That's what catches people out. People walk in emotionally loaded, traumatized, angry, desperate to explain themselves. And then they realize the system runs on procedure, timelines, reports, safeguarding, language, and whether you look emotionally stable under pressure. Meanwhile, the high conflict person walks into court with like a theatre student auditioning for EastEnders. And I mean tears, accusations, fake concern, sudden fragility, selective memory loss, a performance so dramatic it deserves a Netflix warning, contains emotional manipulation, absolutely no accountability. And the biggest mistake parents make is reacting emotionally to obvious bait. Because once you emotionally react in family court, the focus quietly shifts away from what happened onto how you handled what happened. And that's a psychological trap. So today we're talking about strategic silence, not weakness, not submission, not being walked all over, psychological discipline, the art of letting unstable behavior expose itself without interrupting it with your own meltdown. Because in family court, calm looks credible, and credible matters more than outrage. The court is watching stability, not perfection. This is the first thing people need to understand. The court is not searching for perfect parents. Absolutely not. If they were, half the country would lose custody after one Costa Cup coffee tantrum in a supermarket car park. The court is assessing emotional regulation, risk, conflict management, child-focused behavior, stability under stress. That's it. And high conflict personalities understand that. Something most decent people don't. Perception matters. That's why they provoke. That's because, not because they want resolution, but because they want visible emotional evidence. They know if they can make you angry enough, exhausted enough, reactive enough, you start helping their narrative for free. And that's the worst part. Sometimes they barely have to lie. They just provoke you until your frustration becomes evidence. That's why strategic silence is so powerful, because manipulative people need participation. Chaos requires two people. You stepping out emotionally forces spotlight back onto behavior instead of reactions. Stop defending yourself like you're on trial for witchcraft. One of the biggest emotional addictions in family court is over-explaining. You think, if I can just explain properly, they'll finally understand. No, they won't. No, they won't. Because emotionally manipulative people are not misunderstanding you accidentally. They are misunderstanding you strategically. There's a difference. You could provide timestamps, screenshots, GPS coordinates, CCTV footage, and a sworn statement from God himself. And they'd still say, I just don't feel safe. At some point, you have to just stop trying to win emotional arguments with people committed to emotional chaos, especially inside a legal system built around concise evidence and behavioral patterns. Judges do not have 12 hours to unpack your relationship history from 2017 when she got angry because you bought the wrong fucking hummus. Nobody cares. Harsh, but yes. True, though. Unfortunately, yes. So instead of emotionally defending yourself constantly, shift your focus. Stay concise. Stay factual. Stay calm. Stay child-focused. Your composure becomes part of your evidence. Trust me. Silence is psychological positioning. Now, this part matters. Strategic silence is not passive, it's tactical. You are refusing emotional recruitment because high conflict people constantly try to drag you into side battles, text arguments, emotional accusations, clear conversations, character attacks, provocation disguised as concern. Why? Because emotional engagement creates instability. That's why. Instability can later be reframed as aggression, volatility, or co-parenting, emotional dysregulation. So your silence becomes disruptive, not a dramatic silence, not a smug silence, not fake alpha male internet guru nonsense where you stare at the distance like a divorced Batman. No, calm, measured, controlled. That's power, real power. The 3-second rule helps massively here. Before responding, pause, breathe, count silently. 1, 2. Most bad family court decisions begin with, I just lost my temper for a second. That second can cost months. Family court rewards boring people. This is the funniest, most depressing truth about family court. The calmest, most boring person in the room usually looks the safest. You know how terrifies, who terrifies the courts? People who cannot regulate emotion under pressure, even if they're morally right, because family court in England and Wales are fundamentally child welfare driven. The system prioritizes emotional safety, predictability, and the reduction of conflict exposure for children. So if one parent appears explosive, obsessive, chaotic, emotionally reactive, that becomes a concern. Meanwhile, the manipulator may sit there looking calm as a yoga instructor who secretly ruins lives by email. That's why your emotional discipline matters. Not because the system is perfect. It isn't. But because the perception influences outcomes. And honestly, most hearings are incredibly overwhelmed. I will imagine a few good men. Reality is a tired judge, a CAFCASS officer with 50 files, someone's solicitor asking for page numbers, and a parent emotionally combusting over a school jumper disagreement from 8 months ago. Family court is not cinematic. It's administrative trauma. That's why discipline matters, and it beats drama. Now, the child notices everything. Here's the deeper issue. Children absorb emotional atmosphere long before they understand legal language. They feel tension. They feel fear, hostility, resentment. And when parents become consumed, fighting each other, children often become emotionally secondary while adults battle for validation. That's dangerous, really dangerous. Yeah, your child does not need a courtroom warrior every second. They need consistency, emotional safety, patience, presence, stability. Sometimes the strongest parent move is refusing to escalate, not because you're weak, but because your child deserves at least one regulated adult in the situation. And let's be honest, children trapped in high conflict cases often become emotional shock absorbers for adult dysfunction. That's why strategic silence matters. Psychologically, you are reducing emotional shrapnel. Now, treat the entire process like a business transaction. This mindset changes everything. Stop approaching family court emotionally. Approach it operationally. Your goals are protect your child, maintain contact, demonstrate stability, document facts, follow directions, avoid emotional self-destruction. That's it. That's it. No revenge, no vindication, not finally exposing them. Because here's another brutal truth. The court often moves slower than your emotions. You may want instant justice. The system wants procedure, and procedure is painfully boring, very boring, which means emotional people burn themselves out trying to sprint through a marathon. Strategic silence, which means emotional people burn themselves out trying to sprint through a marathon. Strategic silence preserves energy. You stop performing emotionally for people who have already formed narratives and start focusing on long-term consistency instead. That's how credibility gets built, quietly, repeatedly, over time, not through dramatic speeches in corridors outside court 3 while your solicitor develops a migraine. No, high conflict people survive through emotional destabilization. That's their ecosystem. If they can make you reactive, defensive, angry, obsessive, or impulsive, they regain control over the narrative. Strategic silence breaks that cycle. Not because silence magically fixes family court. Absolutely not. It doesn't. But because emotional discipline protects your credibility, your mental health, your child, your long-term case. And in a system where everyone is watching behavior under pressure, calm becomes evidence. So the next time they bait you, pause, breathe, stay concise, stay factual, stay boring. Because boring parents rarely terrify judges, explosive ones do. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in family court, is absolutely fucking nothing. And let it go through you. Until next time, buongiorno.